You're listening to the Everything Jewish 10 Minutes at a Time podcast, where you'll learn about every Jewish topic imaginable in about 10 minutes. And as always, I apologize for all of my Hebrew pronunciation. I know I'm going to pronounce Hebrew words wrong, so instead of getting annoyed, I give you permission to laugh at how I say things. Today's topic is Asara B'Tevet, the 10th of Tevet. Now, if you thought all Jewish fast days were about matzah, Yom Kippur level intensity, or dramatic plagues, here's one that often flies under the radar, but still packs a historical punch. Asara B'Tevet is a minor fast, which means no eating or drinking from dawn until nightfall. But otherwise, life goes on. People still work, kids go to school, and businesses stay open. It falls during the winter, usually in December or early January, and commemorates the beginning of the Babylonian siege of Jerusalem in 588 BCE. That siege eventually led to the destruction of the first temple 2 years later. So this day marks the moment the tragedy began. It's not as well known as Tisha B'Av, but it's the first domino in a chain of calamities that reshaped Jewish history forever. Let's rewind to the story. In 588 BCE, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon marched his army against Jerusalem. The city was fortified, but the Babylonians set up a siege, surrounding the walls, cutting off supplies, and slowly starving the people inside. The prophet Ezekiel describes the date explicitly, the 10th day of the 10th month. This makes Asara B'Tevet unique because unlike other fasts tied to approximate dates, this one comes with a clear timestamp in the Bible. The siege dragged on for nearly 2 years, until the city's walls were breached, the temple was destroyed, and the people exiled. While the destruction itself is commemorated on Tisha B'Av, Asara B'Tevet remembers the beginning, the moment doom became inevitable. It's like marking not the day the Titanic sank, but the day it hit the iceberg. The rabbis made sure Jews would remember not just the outcome of the tragedy, but its first painful step. Asara B'Tevet is part of a trio of fasts tied to the destruction of the temple. On the 17th of Tammuz, Jews fast to mark when the walls of Jerusalem were breached. On Tisha B'Av, the fast remembers the burning of the temple itself. But Asara B'Tevet is earlier in the story, the siege that set everything in motion. Some call it the warning fast, a reminder that disasters don't happen overnight. They build up over time. Spiritually, that's the lesson. Pay attention to the beginnings of problems, not just the dramatic crashes. If the fast of Gedaliah warns against internal division and Tisha B'Av mourns destruction, Asara B'Tevet is about vigilance. It's saying, notice the cracks before the walls fall. That makes it one of the most forward-looking fasts, urging people to reflect not only on the past, but also on how to prevent future collapses before they spiral out of control. The observance itself is straightforward. Like other minor fasts, it begins at dawn and ends at nightfall. No food, no drink, but otherwise, people go about their regular routines. In synagogue, there's a Torah reading that describes the sacrifices once offered on special days, as well as added prayers like Selichot and Avinu Malkeinu. The tone is serious, but not overwhelming. For many, Asara B'Tevet offers a moment of reflection in the middle of winter, a reminder that Jewish life isn't just about celebrations, but also about memory. Unlike Tisha B'Av, where everything slows down and feels heavy, this fast is subtle. You might only notice it when your stomach growls at lunchtime. But that simplicity is part of its message. Even small fasts can carry big weight. By briefly stepping back from food and drink, Jews connect to history, humility, and the sobering truth that freedom is fragile. Interestingly, Asara B'Tevet also took on an additional layer of meaning in modern times. In Israel, it became a general day of mourning for Holocaust victims, whose exact dates of death are unknown. Families who never learned when their loved ones perished often light candles and say Kaddish on this day. This practice turns Asara B'Tevet into not just a memorial for ancient tragedy, but also for modern catastrophe. It bridges biblical destruction with 20th century loss, making the day both timeless and contemporary. It also shows how Jewish tradition adapts. A minor fast from Ezekiel's prophecy became a memorial for one of the darkest chapters of Jewish history. That layering makes Asara B'Tevet especially poignant. It's not just the siege fast, it's also a reminder that Jewish memory carries ancient ruins and modern ashes together. In a calendar full of holidays, This one quietly links the Babylonian exile to the Holocaust. So why keep fasting on Asara B'Tevet when the event it remembers happened over 2,500 years ago? The rabbis explain that fasts aren't just about sadness, they're about self-improvement. They're supposed to spark reflection, repentance, and change. On Asara B'Tevet, the idea is to look at what led to destruction, disunity, corruption, ignoring warnings, and ask how those patterns show up today. It's less about mourning stones and walls, more about preventing future downfalls. Some see it as a communal therapy session. Pause, fast, and ask the hard questions. Are we ignoring problems until they become disasters? Are we divided in ways that weaken us? The siege may be ancient, but the lessons are current. That's why the prophets didn't just describe it as history, they framed it as a moral warning. Asara B'Tevet isn't just a look backward, it's a call to pay attention right now. Another interesting detail, the rabbis debated whether Asara B'Tevet could ever fall on Shabbat, and if it did, whether it should override Shabbat. That's unusual, because almost no fasts besides Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av can interrupt Shabbat joy. Most fasts are simply moved if they conflict. But Asara B'Tevet, because it's mentioned explicitly in the Bible with its date, was considered by some to be immovable. In practice, the calendar is arranged so it never actually lands on Shabbat, but the debate shows how seriously the rabbis took it. They wanted to make clear that this day wasn't just a footnote. Its biblical timestamp gave it weight, making it one of the more anchored minor fasts. That level of attention suggests the rabbis weren't only remembering history, they were emphasizing vigilance. Asara B'Tevet may be minor in practice, but in meaning, it holds major significance. In Israel, Asara B'Tevet is observed quietly. It's not a public holiday and schools and workplaces continue as usual. But in religious communities, the fast is taken seriously, with extra prayers and reflections. In secular spaces, its Holocaust connection often resonates more strongly than its ancient roots. Diaspora communities vary. Some observe it strictly, others barely notice it. That's the reality of minor fasts. They're meaningful but often overlooked compared to the major ones. Still, for those who do observe, the day's simplicity is appealing. No elaborate rituals, no complex rules, just fasting, praying, and remembering. It's like a whisper in the Jewish calendar instead of a shout. But sometimes whispers carry deep truths. Asara B'Tevet proves that not all lessons need costumes, feasts, or fireworks. Sometimes they just need quiet reflection and the discipline of skipping your morning coffee. Spiritually, Asara B'Tevet invites Jews to think about beginnings. The destruction of the temple didn't start with fire. It started with a siege. Big tragedies often begin with small warning signs. That's true historically, and it's true personally. Just as the city walls didn't fall in a day, people's character or communities don't collapse overnight. It happens slowly, with cracks ignored until it's too late. Asara B'Tevet says, notice the siege while it's starting, not when the walls are burning. That's a powerful lesson for anyone, in relationships, in society, in personal growth. It's a reminder that vigilance and small actions matter. You don't have to wait for a catastrophe to reflect and change. The fast itself mirrors that lesson. It's shorter, quieter, and more manageable than the big fasts, but it still carries weight. Small things, even skipping lunch, can shape big awareness. So that's Asara B'Tevet in about 10 minutes, a minor winter fast with major meaning. It remembers the Babylonian siege that led to Jerusalem's destruction, serves as a memorial for Holocaust victims without dates, and teaches vigilance against small beginnings of tragedy. It's quiet, simple, and easy to overlook, but it whispers powerful lessons about unity, leadership, and awareness. Like the thin crescent of the new moon, it's subtle but significant. Thanks for joining me on this whirlwind tour of Asara B'Tevet. Stick around for the next episode, where we'll explore another Jewish holiday in about 10 minutes.